morning, good afternoon to some of you that might not be here on the West Coast. I feel really grateful to be here with you all. There's 75 people. It's pretty cool. Wild times that we're in, but it feels nice to see faces and to connect in whatever ways we can. So, my name's Alexa. I am Alexa Levy. I'm a part of the Permaculture Action Network. And so Permaculture Action Network, we partner with different musical artists and music festivals and different cultural events. And we mobilize people that are going to those events to days of direct regenerative action at different projects across this landmass, like urban farms and community spaces. And we've been doing this for the past 5 years. And there's been over 101 action days and over 15,000 people mobilized these days of direct action. And here today, we have a panel discussion with 4 incredible people who steward land that have all been previous Permaculture Action Day host sites. And the folks here today are really wonderful and brilliant people who are doing such crucial work in the world. So we're really excited for what the next hour and a half will bring. Just a little bit of more of an introduction. So I guess when thinking about what's needed in these incredibly uncertain times, I very clearly obviously think of people locally growing and producing food and medicine and other essentials for one another that's not only has the ability to meet people's needs right now, but that also has the ability to build community power and resilience locally, and which will inevitably continue to meet each other's needs in the long term. It's pretty clear right now, for me at least, that we need each other in these times, and I wonder if other people are feeling that as well. So in these times also, we're reminded of how important growing food is and making medicine and catching and storing rainwater when these crises happen. And people that are farming and doing agriculture are labeled right now as essential workers. And so many people that we usually see as more important in society or more prestigious in our society within the economy, they're not labeled essential workers right now, which really just reminds us how important this work is and how important these people are. And so the people here on the panel discussion are those essential people, and they're doing this every day. These people are real dedicated heroes, providing food and basic needs to their communities. They're still out there growing food and distributing food to people over the last few weeks, really looking out for their communities. So we're hoping that by talking to these farmers today and hearing their stories and learning their best practices and what they're discovering in this moment, is that that you all, the audience, will be able to be inspired and maybe learn new skills and start new projects in the future, and maybe even connect with other projects that have already begun in your local communities right now. And maybe you'll take up a new practical skill and feel that you actually can do this kind of work too. Maybe for those of you who already have projects like this, maybe we'll just create an opportunity for you to be able to be in dialogue with each other so you can learn from one another more and improve the projects you're already working on. So again, work regenerative farming and organizing and tending to communities on this mass scale is so needed everywhere. And we're really grateful to have these panelists today. So thank you for being here.
Just very briefly, everyone, we wanted to make it possible for folks to donate directly to some of the projects and farmers you're going to be hearing from today. We are also running a fundraising campaign that we just started as an organization. Because of the shelter in place, we've had to cancel all of our events, all our on-the-ground action days, workshop hubs, courses, and things like that. So we know so far we've definitely lost about $25,000 in organizational funding to do that kind of work. We're turning a lot of our attention as an organization towards a just transition mapping project, where we're going to be mapping out the various projects that are creating access to material needs like food and medicine through a regenerative relationship with the earth and our ecosystems, but also placing agency into the hands of the people that usually don't experience that kind of agency. We're increasing access, and basically, you know, looking at the projects that are coming out of communities that are solving their own, you know, relationships to the various crises that we face through their own empowerment and creating that kind of land-based autonomy. So we're going to be mapping out lots and lots of those kinds of sites, ones that we've done permaculture action days with in the past and many that we haven't, and making that information available publicly so people can see this just transition we're creating more readily. They can see this regenerative infrastructure, these dual power projects, the solidarity economy we're forming together, and they can more readily get involved in that movement and get involved in those kind of projects. So that's what we'll be doing as an organization, as well as, you know, the usual like growth and onboarding of new folks. And I'm just going to read really briefly the various like places that people can go to donate to the projects you're going to be hearing from today. And then I will also like put it in the chat later on. And maybe we'll like, you know, post it in the Facebook event page and things like that. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to be hearing one from Wanda today, who works with the Hoover Hawks Victory Garden. If you want to donate specifically to Wanda's work, I'll put it in the chat in just a moment, but it's wandalynns@gmail.com on PayPal. That's WANDALYNNES@gmail.com on PayPal. If you want to make a donation specifically to Miss Pearl in the Brooklyn Heights Community Garden, you can do that at Nella-Frierson-1 on Venmo. Again, I'll put this in the chat, but at NELLA-FRIERSON-1. That's on Venmo. If you want to make a donation to Frontline Farming, you'll be hearing from Fatuma today. That's paypal.me/Frontline Farming. All one word, right? Frontline Farming. And if you want to make a donation to Black Earth Farms, we'll be hearing from Will today. Then you can do that on Venmo at Black Earth Farms. And I'll put all of these in the chat in just a moment, in addition to our organization's fundraising link. So with that, I'll be kind of running any of the background tech stuff. If anyone's having any trouble with anything, feel free to talk to me in the chat room. And we'll try to make sure that everyone's able to participate and hear. So with that, passing it back to Alexa and Leah to start us off with our panelists.
Thank you both for the intro to why we're here. And I think it's a good moment to go ahead and segue to hearing from our panelists. So yeah, if y'all could go around and introduce yourselves, name, pronoun, where you are, where you're from, and just like the project you're currently stewarding or any other projects and organizations you might be involved with. So I see Wanda first, and then Wanda, when you're done speaking, if you'll just pass it to the next panelist, we'll move through all of you.
Great. My name is Wanda Stewart. I'm going to claim all the pronouns in the space of we are all they. But call me she if you'd like as well. I grow the Hoover Hawks Victory Garden in West Oakland, and I'm the executive director of an organization called Common Vision. And we place orchards and school gardens into schools and districts. Will, you're next.
Sure, thanks, Wanda. Peace, everyone. My name is Will. I'm currently right now in Bay Miwok territory, but the projects that we're working on is mostly in Huchin, the village of Huchin, which is known as Berkeley in Oakland. And essentially our organization, Black Earth Farms, right now is a group of young Black and brown farmers. We grow food, we deliver it to people's homes, but ultimately we're trying to just create community out of what we have. You know, a lot of us are houseless right now. A lot of us are working just to survive and stay afloat. And so just to know that right now is such like intense time, it makes it really hard to balance all of the needs, including our own, with other people's. But right now we're really focusing on our food distribution because we're realizing people need a lot of food. And so as we talk more about that, I'm excited to share just some of the safe ways we've been trying to distribute food and safe ways we've been like showing up to people's home, making deliveries, and also still trying to keep the farm as a resource, even though we can't be open to the public. we're trying to acknowledge that like being outside is really the safest place we can be right now if we're acknowledging just like clean air and just our spirit and having a way to just really tap in with the earth, which is feeding us. We're trying to really acknowledge that as well. As like, even though the farm is closed and like we have to have physical distancing socially, we should be in solidarity with each other, and thinking about that more than ever is like having an autonomous land base is so important right now more than ever, because in these situations, we're really the only people looking out for us, and we're really the only people that are going to show up for us in the way that we need. So yeah, I think I'm excited to talk more about y'all, like the specifics of what we're doing, but you know, there's more information on us on our website. You can follow us on Instagram, or when we get into the Q&A, of course, you can ask questions too. And then I'll pass it to Fatima.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name's Fatuma Emmad. Thank you for giving me this time to speak with you all and thinking that was valuable enough to hear my voice, so I appreciate it. My role is I'm the executive director and co-founder of an organization called FrontLine Farming in Denver, Colorado. We actually serve about 3 counties. We are specifically a Black and Brown led organization and a Women X led organization. So we really try to lead with our assets. We believe in being an asset driven model. So I resonate with a lot of what people have said. We've kind of always been in the position of knowing that we are the people that have to demand and create the things that we want for ourselves. So I'm excited to be on this call to sort of talk about how we rely on our assets in this time and how we feed into each other, and to also specifically talk about the real impacts we're seeing on our Black and Brown communities in relation to COVID, and really lift that up and try to mentally think this out across different states as well. So thank you all. And I am gonna pass it to our last person, I believe. Miss Nella?
That's me.
All right.
That's Wanda.
All right.
Go ahead, Miss Pearl. I
Just
think
not
we can
talking.
hear you.
Okay, I am Nella Miss Pearl, founder of Brooklyn Heights Community Garden in Nashville, Tennessee. We was established like 2010, and every year we do a do-over. We constantly work on our foundation, and we not only just grow vegetables and stuff. Our purpose is to connect the community, to have the people know that we all in this life together, and that we mean something to each other, and to be a good steward of the earth. It's a whole lot I don't know, and it's a whole lot that I learned from the children, from the different groups and organizations that do come by. This year, even though the pandemic struck and it's happening, I was stuck at first and I didn't know what to do. So what I did do was keep moving forward. We decided the garden it stayed open, but only to about 1 or 2 people or 3 people at a time. We just did weeding. We prepped up in order to plant. And we did a whole bunch of, well, we'll talk about that later, a whole bunch of stuff, safety stuff that we normally wouldn't do. And I go, like I said, and we planning to expand, start a permaculture group called Ironweed, Nashville, Tennessee. And that's what we're gonna do in the future, like in the next year. I hope that was enough.
Thank you, Ms. Perlin. Thank you to each of our panelists for that brief introduction. A lot already to dive into and work with, even within what you've already shared. And thanks, Ms. Pearl. That's a really good segue to our next question, which is, how has this pandemic changed the way you are engaging with your site and your community? And that could be like, what are you focusing on right now in response, or any way you want to take that question. And also, just to say, I think we'll start this question by going in another round, but we would really encourage the 4 of you panelists to make this a dialogue and a conversation as well. So we'll hear from everyone, but also feel free to respond as things come up and make it a conversation. And then for those who are listening in, we'll be following along the chat. So if you have questions that come up as we go, feel free to type them into the chat and we'll do our best to incorporate them. Or if we don't get to it, ask it again at the end. We'll have like a more structured 15-minute Q&A. So just to say that question one more time, how has this global pandemic changed the way you are engaging with your site and your community? What are you focusing on right now? Does anyone feel called to go first?
I'll start if it's okay.
Great.
We just preparing. We're preparing the earth. We're cleaning everything. We're getting. This year was the first year that we had all 40 raised beds ready to go to plant before the April 15th. We had already planted a lot of herbs, and a lot of them came back from last year. But this year, we was going to make this even larger. We connected with some churches in the neighborhood. We have like 4 churches in walking distance of Brooklyn Heights Community Garden. And of course, a lot of people who go to those churches do not live in the community. And then our community has been gentrified. So we knocked on doors and we want the whole neighborhood from a 5-mile radius to come. And so we did a lot of preparing, a lot of weeding and then just getting the word out that this is what we're doing. And that's what we did. Uh-oh. You okay?
I'm just fine, thank you.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Pearl.
I can jump in. I just wanted to acknowledge I'm sitting here today at this farm site I'm at on Arapaho land. And I also wear another role of being the Mile High Farmers President here in Denver. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Black and brown farmers and also farmers in general, small scale farmers. So one thing that we know is that as these crises happen, it creates opportunities for both bad ideas that have been sitting around. We all have and know that there's a lot of good ideas that exist already. We often say in environmental justice work, and especially as women of color, we spend a lot of our time, when Nona LaDuke says up to 80%, really fighting bad ideas off, right? And so right now, in a crisis period, we also know that things move quickly and that we might miss out on being rooms because we're actually serving our communities and access to resources that are being passed down. So we're really moving towards how we self-represent in those spaces. At FrontLine Farm, we have a sort of philosophy of how we approach food system work. We try to both look at security, justice, and sovereignty. Sovereignty is always a goal for us, ownership of the means of our production, but we're always thinking in the justice frame of how do we demand from the system that oppresses us, how to get a little bit more rights, but not get stuck in that world. And then from security, our people need some immediate food access needs. So, you know, as individuals and even as farm workers or leaders in organizations, we might be confronting all 3 of those issues at different times in different ways, or even in our personal lives. When we come to sovereignty, we're speaking truth to power. So it's a push, and you have to know that you're going to get pushed back. So having that framework has helped us even in this approach. One main thing I would say that I've seen is a lot of people are recognizing that food matters all of a sudden. So I'm sure you guys can resonate with that. And so we're seeing all these people jumping in the food spaces. One word of wisdom I have, and one thing we've done on our security side, because we do food distribution, we have a free grocery that we run, is that we soldiered up to our local community organizations who specialize in that work, right? So not trying to spread ourselves out and just doing other work that necessarily isn't our business to do or get the money for. So respecting those that do it and asking them for that guidance has been an important thing in sort of that work. And then lastly, I just add, you know, one good thing about this is that we know one reason I love to be a farmer, even in the US, I'm also from Ethiopia and Yemen, is because in farming communities is one of the places where I find that my identity is quickly not the main thing, being Black and brown. It dissipates quicker than in a lot of other spaces because we focus on a lot of other sort of things that as farmers we need to do together. So that ethics of mutual work exists, but I'm seeing our farmers really coming together to aggregate distribution as well as sales, and that gives me hope for the future of the food system.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Fatima, for mentioning like the solidarity piece, meaning that like we don't have to do anything as people in our individual organizations. Like we don't have to grow the food, harvest the food, and think about distributing the food. If there's people who are already doing that, like tapping in with them more and just like really realizing how we come together and are stronger together, I think has been a big piece for us, because a lot of people, even Black Earth Farms, is forced to take a step back in this time too, and just be like looking at, you know, what's going on, taking it slower, but also just being like, all right, what am I really doing, and how is this really creating a more like solid future for us too. And like one thing that has come up too, just not only the importance of farmers, but like the accessibility piece too, is like now more than ever we're thinking about folks who don't have accessibility to food, who don't have accessibility to green spaces, and really doing the things that they've needed all along, truly. Like there's, you know, many friends that we have that are differently abled or may have certain sensitivities to going outside that we've been delivering food to, and like nothing really has changed for them for their personal lives, but like they've been needing to do these changes and needing to think of these things long before. And so really what it's allowing us to do is to think more broadly about our community and how we show up for our community, of all, sorts of abilities and backgrounds and stuff. So I think that's one thing too that has been coming up for us too, is like how we really create accessible spaces and accessible services for people, even throughout a crisis or not, is like, how do we show up for people that have been dealing with these type of things. And of course the changes for us in the safety protocol has been the biggest thing, is just like being forced to like think about stuff like sanitizing everything and washing everything, which has been a lot. It's been balancing out like, our ability to just be free and with the earth. Cause like, my friend's been saying it all the time that I work with, but like soil is the best hand sanitizer that we could have. It's just having your hands in the earth and be like with that bacteria and breathing in all of the good things that come with working with the earth is just as healing as, washing your hands and thinking about, safe hygiene. So trying to balance all of that out has been, it's been a trick, I think, for us as well. But, the biggest change I think is like how we come together more. Like I think these Zoom calls are such a big test for how well we can organize together, because of course this isn't the ideal way for us to come together. Ideally, we're all in the same space, outside, somewhere under the sun. But the challenge that comes out of needing to communicate and check in with each other outside of the physical realm has been important for us too, and it really brought us together more too. Like needing to just check in more with each other and like communicate better, communicate more efficiently has been such a big blessing too, because like we really realize how close are we. If we can't be together physically but still get this work done and still be in solidarity, that's like the biggest communicator of like unification and of us doing the work. So yeah, I think that's super important to mention too.
Riley, the host, can you unmute Wanda?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I love this question. I'm not so much talking about how things changed when this happened, but how much having a mature farm and a mature social relationships in that network really helped us function when the emergency came. The farm it's a garden, it's a school garden built by elementary school kids, and it's about 4 years old. But we have a sea of purple collards and endless oregano and lots of food. There were chickens and all of that. The day that school was closed with no notice, all of the students at Hoover went home with big bags of collard greens that they'd grown themselves, that they'd helped watch develop and cultivate. They went home with the medicine that's called for in this virus. I only found out after I gave them all that oregano just how valuable oregano is. So I am really pleased that this little subset of tomorrow's children left school on the day of the virus and remember that they have food that they'd grown, that they could feed their families, and that they knew how to do it in their communities and in their homes when they got there. And it's the same thing for relationships. People will tell you in disaster, the best way to be prepared is to have a network of strong people. And we in the Bay Area are amazingly blessed with knowing each other and having connections and relationships. And as a result of that, there's free plants flowing everywhere. We're finding ways to distribute food to people. We've been able to catch this hot potato of a virus and figure out ways to support ourselves and each other. So for me, aside from the pain and the death and the transitions that I know folks are going to, I am thrilled to be able to focus on growing a new world. I used to laugh, like 10 years ago, people say, why does your front yard only have food in it? And I said, because me and my people are going to eat in apocalypse, right? I swear, y'all, I didn't mean it in that way. I certainly didn't mean it in this way. But I can see a beautiful new world that's coming. And I have decided to focus my intention and my action on that. And, you know, pay attention to this crazy gulf of crap we got to go through. But there really is a new world. So teaching folks how to take care of their bodies, how to eat, how to grow food, knowing my nearby neighbors. This is Angel, who had to get in the show, has become really important to me. And I see the community around my house and in the school garden beginning to gravitate towards the garden. You know, your house has become a hub when somebody puts a free bag of tortillas in front of your house, not for you, but for distribution to the public, right? Mm-hmm. So these things are working here in Berkeley and here in West Oakland, and I love that.
Oh, Ryan, could you unmute Miss Pearl?
Yes. Hey, Miss Pearl, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. And also, like Sister Wanda said about being a hub, different people knew what we was doing here at Brooklyn Heights Community Garden. So they bring by potatoes and lettuce, tomatoes, and for us to keep giving it out to the homeless and giving it out to just different neighbors who are less fortunate. Because we, and I've taken this time when all this started happening to really dive into the process of just holding space, first for myself and then for other selves, and to show them how we can take this opportunity to grow and to do the best we can do with ourselves, with our neighbors. This is the first time since I've been living in 22 years that I know almost all the neighbors, because almost all of them walk, and all of them, of course, they'll be across the street when they talk to me, and I talk to them, and they say they come to the garden, and I've seen a couple of people over there weeding the garden without me even saying anything, and it has brought together my immediate family. I have 5 grown daughters, and a couple of us was not on good terms. We talk almost every day, and they have taken up agreements to do more with the garden. Some of them don't like to get in the dirt, so they do Facebook stuff, Instagram stuff, and I've even had other people from other neighborhoods to come, grant writer star, to come and put their efforts and energy into the Brooklyn Heights Community Garden, because I'm just The reason it started was because a young guy got killed in the neighborhood. And I said, we have got to do something to help ourselves to eat better, to think better, to interact. And so that's the premise of Brooklyn Heights Community Garden. We do more than just grow vegetables and stuff. We reach out and we listen and we write books. We help ourselves, help other selves. And like I said, this opportunity has been great. And it's scary. I even got I made me a scarf with all the different things that I feel: excitement, scared, happy, lonely. I'm a life coach too, so this is some of the buttons I've made this scarf. So when I do wear it, people ask me how you feel, and I just touch one. That's how I'm feeling at that moment. But we got to be creative in how we interact and the vibrations we put out. I was telling my daughters, let's heighten our vibrations. Let's think of something good and have a catchword when you feel yourself going down a negative tunnel. Because all this stuff that's negative has been here. Focus on what you need. Address that's going on negative, that you don't like or that is out of order, but raise your vibration. That's how we're going to get through this, by heightening our vibrations. Even if it's just singing a song or dancing or hula hooping, planting a garden, taking deep breaths, going to sleep a lot. That's what I've been doing. And somebody's knocking my door.
Nella, can I get some buttons? I would love some of your buttons. Right. To be able to touch that, I could distribute and sell your buttons. Right. Because I think you're so right. Like, I have never felt when I'm out there working in the garden. So we just started preparing the Hoover garden for spring. Our school is lucky to be a food drop-off zone, so we can get in there. And people are just coming to weed, like you said, and people that weren't coming before. And there's the ability to be 6 feet away. And yet when my hands are in the earth and I'm doing that, I feel only safe and faithful and empowered.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I want to jump in and lift some of that up. I think what you both were saying at the beginning about how when this did happen, we were already a hub. And I think that's an important point because, you know, as leaders in the community, people already knew they could come to us as these things around food were going on. And I think it was really important that we already existed, particularly for our Black and Brown communities, to know that we got their back and that we've been thinking about the security for our own people before this time. And in fact, that this is the time that in certain ways we were prepared and preparing for. And so I think that that moment, and I'm sure other people can respond, you know, activated us to step into leadership in different ways. I know for me, sort of before any of it was happening and while I was watching, I thought that other people would help make the call or for safety, really before any of this came down the chain. And when I went to speak with some of my elder people who would give me good guidance, I saw that people were scared themselves. And so I had to step into not being afraid and making decisions that needed to be made. And I saw that even people that were older that I relied on in that moment were just grateful to have somebody that was like, no, we're stopping. I'm pulling everybody back. I don't care what's going on. I got to take responsibility for the people I'm responsible for. And I got to make the best decisions I can based on information and intuitions that I have. So we pulled back our crew a couple weeks before any of this was even really going on. And I felt that at that time, what allowed me to make it was that even if that was a mistake, at least I was preparing us. And so in a lot of ways, I'm sure it resonates that a lot of our lives haven't changed right now. You know, I know people are kind of cooped up and stuff, but we're in potato planting just the way the earth potato plant needs potato planting right now. So that, and then the last thing I wanted to say sort of about response, more on a systematic level, is I know that we have to create our own ways to fight for these things and make sure that we are in these spaces. But you know, there's other people and a lot of power trying to create systems right now around us. And as much as we hate being in those rooms, we make sure to be in those rooms because they're going to be creating the new food system, and their data and their measurements they use is the measurements that created the old system.
Right.
And so we focus on being really specific about where we're jumping in to make sure that we're not contributing to band-aiding a system, right? We know we need this relief, but the relief we need is greater than the money they're talking about. They just want to bring us back to a point of having so little as farmers and being, you know, and obviously what's going on with our immigrant farmers and things like that, that we should talk about at some point. So just, you know, making sure that we're not jumping in to band-aid the system and to just hold it up the way it was, but how can we make meaningful long-term changes in these spaces right now?
Mhm.
I see changes in the children that I work for. The first year of the garden, they would break every new piece of equipment within 24 hours. I mean, a tough shed, the door pulled off. There was a horror story where a little girl that got on everybody's nerves, her whole class chased her around with shovels in their hands in a way that wasn't cool. Or the day that we discovered an explosion of caterpillars, and when I was pointing out nature to them, at the end of the day, you couldn't find a caterpillar, right? 3-4 years later, these children know to let the caterpillars be and to watch what they do and to not touch that chrysalis and to be really still when a butterfly comes and lands on your arm, right? And to be very compassionate to one another. So they learned how to frame life in very real ways. So we raised baby chickens and they watched those butterflies. And when my dad died, somebody in the back of the room, I was explaining I wasn't going to be there. And some third grader said, wow, there goes that life cycle again, right? And these are children for whom the life cycle includes lots of ongoing, unending traumas, whether that's drugs, whether that's violence. There's a lot of death in front of them before a virus ever came up in here. But they have a frame for how to live life, right? That it always goes on, that it's cyclical, that I tell them, if I can teach you to grow a plant, I can teach you to grow yourself. And if we can build a garden, we can grow a community. And an amazing thing has happened in this space of this land. And I think everybody following those kinds of examples and the examples of the people here, never mind the system, I'm not even paying attention to it. Let's grow what we want. I don't even really care about the rules and regulations. Let's just get at it.
And one thing I would say, how the garden helps you heal. When you weeding or when you preparing, when you talking about a change for the positive, for right now and for the future, your mind would not be just dwelling on what is yucky or what is wrong. You put yourself in another state of mind. You make sure that that's how the healing starts, and it affects your whole body. Because a couple of years, 2 years ago, matter of fact, I had an L7 rupture, and what helped me to heal was me being in the garden, me the positive people who've been around, who's been a part of the garden, coming, giving me teas and just saying happy stuff with me, learning how to just to get, just to be with each other. And that's one of the ways that the garden heals. You plant the seed and you see how you interacting with the garden, with the earth, is doing something positive. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the whole community in that sense. But I'm still a work in progress myself. I'm still learning as I go. Sometimes I'm amazed at how much stuff comes up and how beautiful and tasty it is, because I do very little, but I just do the best I can. I just hold some space.
Yeah, thank you.
Nella, you my new best friend. That's all I wanted to say.
We shall meet, and we will exchange. We will exchange information.
Phil, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, just to continue off that that question someone put in the chat, just like how is the garden being a resource or the farm being a resource more than ever right now, and goes back to something Ms. Pearl said about like during this time we need to think about heightening our vibrations and thinking about that. As already been explained, like the being outside and being connected with the earth is the biggest way you can do that. And I think right now it's more important than ever because I've been noticing in myself and in a lot of people, just like being inside, you can get like trapped into like the world of technology and using your phone and using your computer and just having all of these things that aren't really connecting you with the present moment. And so right now more than ever, I think it's important for people to act like work against that and combat against like what shelter in place really means, and you know what even like distancing self and quarantining really means, but not using that as an opportunity just to like stay cooped up and stay isolated, but actually think about ways to still interact with the world around you in a safe way. And also mentioning the fact too, like, you know, for the youth right now, more importantly, it's important for us to show up too, because like,
That's right.
you know, with this specific disease, like the youth have more of a stronger immunity to it, but also just like it emphasizes too that the future is the youth, regardless, you know, whatever happens, the youth is still going to be here in some way. So having like that as a point too, just like right now, it has been so important to like tap in with our elders and like ask for guidance and ask for help, ask for prayers, ask for all these things, but also be actively showing up and doing the work that they may not be able to do. And so, yeah, it's like for all the youth out there, just know that right now it's like it's your time. You know, we're not taking up the stage, but we're just really doing our part in like showing up for people.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that too. I would just say that certainly we know that it's, you know, always been important to kind of get out, grow your own food, and that for different reasons people don't want to, they might be more inclined now. One thing that we're seeing, however, is also that, for example, if we take seed companies, many of the seed companies have sold out and don't even have stock right now. So when we ask ourselves, like, who's hoarding these seeds, it's likely mostly like more affluent home gardeners and stuff like that. So even some seed companies are shutting down and only selling to commercial growers. So I feel like this is also a time to rely on people that have those skills that are kind of in production as well. And to balance that, like, we're not just going to learn, you know, farming, as many of you know, or gardening is a skill, right? It takes a high level of intelligence. It takes years of experience. So in some ways, if people are looking to all of a sudden set up their gardens and get all these resources and start like that right now, I also just caution thinking about how you can support your local farmers and gardeners who are doing that work, and how you can plug into that education so you don't, the best way to garden is to succeed. So, you know, just putting more thought into how we do that as well, so that we're all in that system of resilience together would be an addition. But I agree, I hear you. Thank you.
Speaking for the old people, I've been having to work on accepting an elderhood or elder status that the younger folks, beautiful people like Will, have sort of surrounded me with. And it too is an important thing. You know, in the face of this virus and in the lightening of the human load on the planet, a friend and I joked about we need to be really valuable as old people so that we get to pass on through in the transition. And the value that we decided we could bring was being the example and the model of how to eat, how to grow, how to harvest personally, environmentally, and in terms of the community. We have beautiful things happening. I got an email yesterday from folks in Sonoma County that said, hey, we got all these farmers up here and they're everybody's got extra starts and we want to give them to you because we know that you will give them out into the community in the Bay, right? And so not being worried about being dependent on those seed companies. We don't need your darn seeds, right? We got seeds. we have established gardens that yield seeds. And we work together to pull that off.
Thank you all. So far, this is incredibly rich.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
The next question has kind of been spoken to. Oh, Ms. Pearl, do you want to say something?
Oh, I just say, Lord have mercy. Something happened. They had to call me out. I'm back. I'm going to stay with this. Then I'll deal with that. So I am okay.
All right, good. Well, then the next question that we had planned for has kind of been spoken to a little bit, but curious if you all want to elaborate. So thinking of what systems you are grateful for having taken the time to establish ahead of time that are now proving support for your community's resilience. So we've already heard, like, you know, Wanda saying at Hoover, there's a sea of collard greens. And Will was saying that they're already delivering food to people who they always have at Black Earth Farm. And Ms. Pearl, you're saying it's like brought together the community, like 22 neighbors you now know that you didn't know before. And people are just showing up and weeding even without direction. And Fatuma, I'm thinking also of like last June at the Permaculture Action Day, where you are right now in Arvada, at Majestic View Farm with all you all at Frontline Farming. I think I see Damien and Josh Sun are there too, huh? Hey y'all, good to see you. Damien and Josh Sun are also farmers with, oh cool, is that Abby? All farmers with Frontline Farming. But last June at a Permaculture Action Day there was like a newly acquired 2-acre site, and we started building that hand washing station. So like thinking of these systems that you all have taken time to establish ahead of time that are now really proving to support your community's resilience. Maybe if you can speak to some of those actual systems.
Okay, well, I'll start off. The actual systems we have here, we meet, even we're not doing, not permaculture, even we're not doing gardening stuff, we'll meet here to just talk about family issues. I'm a life coach also, and we talk about family issues, about one thing that I believe in dearly is to speak the problem. The solution is in the problem, but always work towards the solution. Don't get stuck on this is what happened and that, you know, the negative, that's a part of it. And so I never denounce that. And I give them, like, it's called a 2-minute moment to speak your truth, your yuck, your sorrow. After 2 minutes, the next question is, what are you gonna do? And then I just ask, I'll never tell them this is what you should do. We just write it out, we speak it out, and then we move forward. And a lot of people have stated that that's helped them right now, because the first thing I done when this pandemic happened was I was stuck. But for some reason, a month before this transition, this took place, I had decided to stay in the house. I decided to stay to myself because I was creating something. I was in the process of refinancing my house, and I was in the process of changing my body because I'm in love with sugar. And so I had decided already to change all that, to let all that go. And so when this happened, I was a little bit ahead of the curve because I was doing more, doing a lot of more healthier things and addressing what is making me angry or what I'm letting making me angry. And so I was been passing it on to different people, and I just asked them all the time, so what brings you joy? Or how do you connect with your neighbor? Or how do you connect with your mom? Because a lot of men is telling me that they didn't like their daddies, or they didn't like their the moms, and they've been using the things I've been saying, like, okay, just ask yourself a question, why not? And what could you do to like yourself more? Because usually when something happens, you're part of it. You might not know it, but so-and-so did this. It's the way you took it on. And so here at the garden, we just been kind of sitting around just talking about just everyday stuff, how you can better yourself, how you can forgive yourself first and then forgive another self and see how that feels. And so that's one thing we've been having in place. And we've been teaching people how to share. Or share your skills. Because I'm just now learning all this technical stuff. That's why I'm so amazed when I'm on this Zoom. This is like a blessing beyond a blessing, but and it feels better. And I have a lot of copper and a lot of different. My daughter told me put this. I forgot what you call this black, whatever it is. This.
Ooh, that might be obsidian. Is that obsidian?
That's it. She told me put this on the computer.
Obsidian! Yay!
And
My
coffee.
house, my farm in Berkeley is called Obsidian Farm. Do you know what obsidian is?
I forgot. She told me absorbs.
It absorbs negative energy, but it's also like, it's the stone that comes from lava, right? So it's like formed in that deep, hot lava in all of that blackness, but it supports transformation, right?
Okay.
Both personal, both community, both spiritual, right? Which is why I named my farm. I've named 2 dogs and a farm Obsidian. But it's a wonderful thing, right? And it's even one of the systems that I lean on in this. I also like that you talk about yourself first, because I think that's what we all got to do. I'm really glad that some years back, I got really clear about getting the sugar out, about please, everybody, please no dairy in the times of Corona, right? If you take anything from your diet, the dairy, and then maybe the gluten, because of the mucus in your body. But I'm really pleased for the body that I have and the way that I know to cook and eat. In times of Corona, I just tried on the smallest clothing item in my wardrobe and it fit. Right? And my body is serving me based on how I've been eating and how I know to eat before this all ever happened.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go off that. Like, that's one big thing that for myself I've set up too, is just having a way to eat off the stuff I'm growing. Like, you know, when I started becoming more into growing food, I realized that I'm a hypocrite if I don't eat the food that I grow myself. And so, like, knowing that I'm completely fine eating a plant-based diet and I'm not going to struggle from that, and that my body's not going to struggle from that, but actually, you know, be stronger for it, has been one big thing that I've been able to do that was already set into place before this. And it makes it a lot easier to think about, you know, sustaining myself, but also sustaining my family and making sure that we have what we need, but also, you know, being able to communicate that knowledge, just like Wanda and Ms. Pearl did right there, just like communicating that to other people. Is like, you know, this food that we grow is medicine. Food is medicine. Knowing how to use herbs and knowing how to use different herbal medicines to like clear the lungs, like mullein. We have a bunch of mullein on the farm right now. If you have mullein, that's a bit, you know, a good thing for your respiratory to use right now. All of these different resources that are on the farm already too, that has been insinuated, like having a sink, you know, having distribution, packaging and stuff like that. Like the CSA is really a model that is intended for this too. And we're blessed to have a network that, you know, we've never served food to just everybody. You know, we've never just like, you know, anyone who asks for food needs it, but we also prioritize like people who need it the most and people who are the most impacted by this food systems. So like people who are in food apartheid areas, people who can't leave the home, people who are elderly, people who have children and have to work a lot. And so like having a system already set up where we're already feeding the most vulnerable people in the most impacted communities was very crucial, because people were prepared to take a step back too. Like if we contacted people and we're just like, hey, you know, we're delivering a lot of boxes right now, you know, are you really in need of food? That was never taken as like, oh, what are y'all doing? Like, this is not right. But it was just really understood as like, the work that y'all are doing is intended for the most impacted communities. So I'm gonna take a step back and let y'all deliver a box of produce to someone else who needs it. You know, that was super crucial for us to have that network already ready to like, to show up in that way. And I think for us as an organization is like, you know, we meet every week, and that has been a continued thing. And we prioritize that as like, yo, at least once a week we have to and talk about things that are happening and check in on each other and ask how we're doing and support each other in that way. And so we still are doing that. And that's a system that if we didn't have in place already, it would have been like, we would have just not talked weeks without checking in with each other. We would have all just been doing individual things. But because that was already in play, we already know every Friday, regardless of if it's a phone call or if it's an individual check-in with each other, is like we have to check in and see where we're at. And so that was just such a crucial thing to be able to like still communicate with each other in that way, and still meet and organize and talk about things that we need and support each other, because obviously people are struggling in all the ways right now, but like showing up for our community and like all of the capacities, whether it's money, whether it's food, whether it's time, whether it's just venting, listening, is crucial now more than ever.
Thank you.
I would add, I am really grateful for the social relationships and the people around me in terms of the conversations that we can have about race and culture across race and culture. I live in a neighborhood that was Berkeley's big and booming Black neighborhood, and now that I can see all my neighbors walking, I realize I might be the lone little Black lady growing food in the sea of gentrification. And I've always been concerned about, in preparation for today's world, like, who do I organize with, right? Sometimes we Black folks struggle with each other, especially in the Bay Area around urban ag. But certainly we have struggles when we're dealing with comrades of other colors, and when stress and violence and angst and viruses get in it. That's when all of our cultural stuff, alarms, triggers, beliefs really come into play. And whether we like it or not, whether we even mean it or not. So I'm really grateful that I've been interacting with the folks around me in culturally, racially, ethnically transparent ways, so that we can talk about what comes up, right? Because we're getting ready to talk about a whole brown people and white people growing food together. Our history around that in our nation is fraught with all kinds of peril. So to have been having the conversations before we got to this critical point, so we can figure out how to go forward, I'm taking a whole lot of value and stock in today as well.
Cool, yeah. I agree with all those sentiments. I'm also going to go a little different direction of some systems. One great system I think that has really helped us is an economic system we created. So as a farmer advocacy organization, we have been very specific about getting our farmers their basic necessities economically. So we pay our farmers a salary, and we provide insurance for them. So we prioritize those kinds of needs, and having thought of that ahead as one of our priorities, that's really served us well in this time and allowed us to have the capacity to even uplift and be in the spaces for other farmers. Also, the way that we've structured ourselves as a cooperative group really helps. So that helps that different people can wear different hats and step up to different roles. Not a single one of our farmers is only a farmer. They're an educator, they're a volunteer coordinator. There's no one in our group of people that doesn't farm, whether it's our media person or whatnot. So really trying to create those connections of advocacy in that type of way. We also work a lot to give ourselves time to not try to divide our personal and work spheres. So how we've interrelated and the cultures we've created around that, from holding council circles with all our crew, to our students, and taking the time to do that mental, physical, spiritual check-in, and having had that basis to come together in a crisis moment, to be able to identify how people respond to stress and to be able to lift each other up in those ways, to communicate as a group of people as we do in our family, to ask who is the most vulnerable and how can we protect them the best? How can we that are not step up in other ways without making people feel stigmatized, but knowing that we're here for them? So those are examples of sort of structural things. An example of like an immediate sort of dispersal thing that I was so grateful for is, you know, people are getting sick around us. And as we know, it's a lot of Black and brown people. So when a single mother who we serve with children calls us, and whoever we call, you know, when I got that call, whoever we called was really freaked out. All these other institutions, you could tell no one wanted to help. They're like, oh, well, you know, just make sure they stay inside. SNAP doesn't deliver food. That's a big structural problem. Why isn't someone's SNAP money as good as somebody else's money to get your food delivered, right? So what I did at that moment when we couldn't get help is I called our mothers. I called our Black and brown mothers in the community. I called our people, and they were like, boom, this is what we need to do, right? So I knew who our assets were, but we also were able to touch base with our herbal team. We have an herbal team. Our herbal team is made up of different people. They're cheering over here, my farmers who are the herbal team. So it was really wonderful because when that happened, when I, you know, at night, and I was like on the verge of tears, I'm like, how do we help her? I can't leave the sister. She's got kids there, you know? And what we realized at that moment was, you know, I called the whole herbal team. They activated. They're like, she needs this, she needs that. And they made those packages and those recipes and dropped them off. And from there, that also cued us that our herbal team needs to be working on emergency release packages of medicine, right? Some that are more preventative as people are getting sick around us, and some that are acute. Because even when I took it, I was like, dang, I need all of this, you know, because they gave her the world, you know? So now we're like, we got to make smaller bottles. We got to be ready to distribute it. But that informed us. So they're working on that. Also, a lot of midwives are becoming relevant, right? Even conservative and Republican people are like, oh, you know, you can have a baby at home. You don't have to have it at the hospital all of a sudden, right? And so even our sisters who are midwives and stuff, you know, they need some herbal support too. So trying to plug in where we have those skills to say, we'll help you freely. You know, what do you need from us? And we can create that reciprocity in so many ways. So just having those systems, like I felt so much less scared myself as a human when I called all those people and they were like, we got you. And that was like, all right, we got each other and I know it. And so really getting clear on who your people are and who you can activate in those ways for our community is really important in this time.
So y'all, we're coming up on, we have about like 25 minutes left on the panel, and we're gonna start getting into some questions and responses. Before I do, I wanna welcome Jose from New Jersey to share with us. His organization is working on a number of projects that are doing urban farms and community gardens there. And he's in a specifically, you know, adjacent place to New York City, one of the centers of the pandemic right now. So Jose is going to share with us for a few minutes about what they're up to in New Jersey, and then we'll go with a couple other questions from attendees.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jose German. I'm the founder of the Northeast Earth Coalition. It's an environmental and social justice non-profit organization, volunteer-driven. We have created something that is working very well, and that is my intention to share with you how successful our organization has been in the past 5 years. We started in 2016, and we have now presence in 9 communities in northern New Jersey. With vegetable garden, we provide workshops and education, and we are collectively producing more than 6,000 pounds of vegetables per year. During this crisis where everybody was, you know, in isolation, some of our volunteers created a new community gardens for a very needed community in 21 hours, which is a record. And this garden was planted and is now ready to produce food next week as we speak. This food is donated to several local food pantries, which now the need for the food pantry programs, local food program, is 10 times what used to be in the past, because people are unemployed, people are not making money, so they are in need of food and, you know, and support. We also immediately, as a reaction of the coronavirus crisis, created a virtual platform to educate our community how to grow food at home. And the response has been wonderful because many people has been replicating our gardens, our community gardens and demonstration garden in their backyard. So this is another thing which is also making food affordable in our community. We also have a program for disabled veterans. We are serving refugees, Latino refugees from Central America and the Caribbean. We also have women's from different locations working together in a women project, community garden. We have 14 families participating in the Women Center program. And this is wonderful. That's the way that we connect people. We have probably 120, 130 volunteers. Nobody get paid, but everybody's putting heart and soul to support the community. Thank you.
And then do we still have Brandon with us? Brandon, are you on the call? There you are. Hey, Brandon, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, Brandon is an herbalist and an amazing person when it comes to plants and medicine. So we're gonna have Brandon share a couple things, and then we have a few questions from the panelists after that. I'm sorry, from the participants.
Cool. Hey, everyone. I'm Brandon. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, so on the East Coast. And right now, things over here are, they're much different than a lot of like the rural landscape around us, where we have like Western North Carolina with a little less activity involving the virus in comparison to what it's looking like in Charlotte. Things are a little more strict and locked down. But basically, I forget, someone was mentioning it, I think, but I think something to keep in mind is that a lot of the systems that seem like they need to be pioneered of some sort, of like getting food to people during this time, and some of the restrictions people are facing are things that a lot of people have already been facing for an extended period of time. So for a lot of systems that have been in place under the project, it's not anything new, but it's more, when it looks at transportation and certain things involving obviously human contact and safety, that's kind of where I've had to look to ramp things up. And so I've been putting out and working on, probably in the next week, the network of small gardens that I'm operating in, basically offering a mix of herbal support as well as food. And a lot of people, they get the concept of the food as medicine, but more specific as to, let me think, for an example, over the next week, it'll probably be something along the lines of daikon radishes, Japanese mustard greens, a couple different spices, a 4-ounce bottle of fire cider made from the garden, and then maybe like an herbal seasoning. And so it's a way that, under the philosophy of herbal education that I've been working on for a while, it kind of reminds people, and it's a really cool way to get that that connection that I think people are missing, because people seem to see herbal medicine as something that is very foreign. It has this whole operation that is kind of like, whoa, like I wouldn't, be involved in that. And actually tonight I'm at 6 Eastern time, I'm doing a live on the project on like kitchen medicines and basically utilizing and accessing what we already have, and how, again, we don't really need to translate what herbal medicine is into this thing that's very foreign and very alien to us. It's very easy to learn about and to be a part of. So that's kind of my thing. With what I have 3 different gardening urban spaces that were basically neglected spaces, a community garden, and then a bigger field. I'm in collaboration with a farmer who is cultivating moringa and a lot of African crops. So we've been cultivating over the past 1.5 years, mostly culturally significant crops for the communities here in Charlotte, which is mostly consisting of Latinx, a lot of Caribbean, a lot of African, and I think places of that sort. So really this time of year can be a little slower for us because a lot of those crops like warmer weather, which we don't have for a little bit. But in the meantime, we're just trying to ramp up and look at, what systems are best during this time and how do we really get people the access to all the things that they need. So.
Thank you, Brandon. Please feel free to like put any links to websites or anywhere where you're sharing more online in the chat so people can access it. And also, if folks want to learn more about Jose's project, Northeast Earth Coalition in New Jersey, it's neearth.org. And I put that in the chat too. So I'm going to bring in one of the questions from the folks attending. This one comes from Nika. And Nika asks, I'm curious about urban farmers' relationships with industrial farm workers who are mainly migrants and working for such little pay and who are on a very different type of frontline. Is there any collaboration and work being done with these farmers in terms of systems change and solidarity? Fatuma, would you like to respond? Yeah.
Yes, we very much at FrontLine work on this through many ways, both through advocacy and self-representation. It's a big deal. Everybody's talking about farmers, but the real farmers who make that system, 80% where they actually measure it in North Carolina, most stats about immigrant farmers are not measured because they don't want to measure them. But even in, say, North Carolina, where they find it's 90% make that, a lot of people also want to refer to the H-2A visas for agricultural workers, which already is a whole problematic thing. But even that only covers, is really relating to maybe at tops 25% of migrant agricultural workers. And so it's really interesting what's happening right now. I'm sure you guys see, right? So people are considered illegal and at the same time critical workers. And it's like a woman from the California region who works as an orange picker and has done so for over 20 years. She was like, wow, damn, now people really recognize that we're critical workers. A lot of that system operates, it's just interesting how people don't want to acknowledge the biggest issues of our food system and want to move on in all these policy places with these little band-aids and act like that's an impossible thing. They don't even designate those people within agricultural labor according to census tracts. So right now, one of the big things is as relief money is coming and stuff like that, those people aren't going to get it. We don't even count them. There's intentionality behind that. So we're doing a lot of work at policy levels to advocate that, where people think we're always ridiculous already. Anyways, even the only thing that's happening right now is those contradictions that we always knew are just becoming even more evident and in your face, you know? So we're dealing with it on these policy levels, and also, you know, trying to navigate how to get in these spaces at this moment. The way that, another way we deal with it is by being in the rooms to represent ourselves. We're often asked to come, you know, I sit on the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union as a fellow that represents 3 states. When I went to the delegation, it was 159 people that all did not look like me. We're almost all white. And that's why I activated to make myself in farm spaces, because when we're there, the people in that room aren't the farmers. And we've created legal systems that actually ensure that they can't be in the rooms to advocate for themselves. And so it's a conundrum. And so whenever you're bringing it up in these spaces, they're like, but that's a labor issue. That's a federal issue. So yeah, constantly bringing that up. And then really a lot of it is, you know, I can give you guys, you know, simple examples of how you can work with that in your community level. But that's what I'm saying about these, you know, major policy level things that come down. As much as we do work outside of the system and believe in direct action and are down to think outside of it and will do whatever, we also know that these things end up having significant impacts on the lives of many people, and that sometimes those little changes are the changes that are going to make big impacts. We don't want to get stuck there. We always want to demand more for our people, not the same demands and the same things that our white counterparts have gained. We're not trying to get to that same table. We want a different and greater table for everybody, right? So yeah, I get really worked up about that issue. Wherever I am, you know, I always knock out a lot of things for them. I'm a female, I'm an immigrant, a child of immigrants, different things. And I'm always like, cool, so I'm here in this farming room, but the real farmers aren't here. So yeah, it's one of our biggest concerns right now is how we're getting this in those conversations, and people just want to keep brushing it off and act like there's these other things to fix. That's the big thing that needs to get fixed.
I feel good about first the fact that people like Fatuma are in those policy conversations. I tend to resist those, but personally, but I'm really confident too about the way in which the pandemic has surfaced the injustices for people that we all knew, right? Way before this, right? But now all of a sudden, you know, I got Anderson Cooper going, oh my God, the Black people are dying in disproportionate reasons because of diabetes and, you know, and all this kind of stuff. Glad that you finally got it. Glad the whole nation's got it. In California, we know that it was a problem that Donald wasn't letting the Mexicans come in and sending them all back. And very shortly, our nation is gonna wonder, whoa, who's gonna plant the food for the nation in the next month? Who's gonna be there to maintain it and harvest it? And I hope and I pray that it's a situation that brings all that up right to the surface so that it can be dealt with. And we can take those folks and move forward. And if you can't understand that, and you can't pay farmers what they're due, now that you really know what they're due, right, and you live for it, I know I sound idealistic on this new world thing, but I really do believe that this entire system is coming crashing down, even at a spiritual level, and that things like policies and the ways that we have done laws and aren't even going to stand. I don't even believe money is going to stand in the same way, right? But I'm confident that they got to see us. And I hope that we see ourselves too, right? Like suddenly I have a new appreciation for my power to grow food that I didn't have before, right? And a new confidence because I'm actually using it. And I'm thrilled that, you know, Miss Pearl and all my people are going, whoa, we really should have got rid of the sugar, right? We really do need to take some of this meat and fried food out of our diets. I think it can move us forward.
And I like to say also about, to me, when they made that, which I hardly ever look at TV, and different people have told me about, you said Anderson Cooper stated about the Blacks dying in unproportionate measures. That's purposely done. It's done on purpose to bring about fear, to bring about so they can be more scared because a lot of people I knew weren't even scared. They weren't even taking it serious, even though they've been sick since they was born. And they, you know, nothing didn't change for them, but they was like, oh well, I'm gonna live or I'm gonna die. But now it's a whole lot of people talking about we died. When you put your energy, into, it comes true. So that's why when it comes up like that, I tell the different people, your truth is inside of you, and if that is happening, do something about it. Don't go out there being scared. They saying it's affecting us more. It may or may not be. You know how propaganda is. It may or may not be true. Don't make it true in your household. Give up 2 candy bars. Just start somewhere and make a change. Be the change, and do it within yourself, and then it'll circle out. It has to. Change is just that. It brings about something different. And the more we harp on the negative, because it's true, the negative is here. But what are we going to do? Talk about it one time, then what are we going to do different? Or how are we going to walk our dogs, which I don't have a dog, I don't have a cat. Or are we going to get more exercise in? What are we going to do as a human being? And my thing is stress. How are you going to make sure that you don't be stressed out or get stressed out or be negative? So, I mean, and to be honest, politically, I am behind the curve. But I do, what I've constantly done since this pandemic, I have been talking with my councilwoman to see about what can we put in place to make sure there's more green space, to make sure that we have places that we feel safe, and that we have some programs put in place to talk with the children right now and talk with them on an ongoing basis. Her name is Kenyante Toombs, and we're in District 2 in Nashville, Tennessee. She's an awesome person, and she's on the front line doing a whole bunch of stuff that's productive. And we need to take this time and just be productive, be proactive as best you can. It might just be putting something happy on Facebook, or agreeing to taking and making a garden in your yard. Something simple. You just got to start. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Ms. Pearl. We have about 5 minutes left, and I think there's just like maybe one outstanding question in the chat that can maybe segue into closing thoughts from all of our panelists. So someone said, are there any programs, this is from Trevor Riggins, are there any programs in place to mobilize home gardeners, civilians who want to spend energy in this area? I want to do more for my community, but feel overwhelmed about where to start. So yeah, maybe we can go around, and if y'all want to speak to that, or just any closing thoughts, anything else you'd like to make sure to share before we go offline. And maybe Will, since we haven't heard from you in a bit, would you like to start?
Muted.
Oh, Ryan, please unmute.
I unmuted him.
Oh, thank you, for sure. Super important question. I think it's been talked about a little bit in certain capacities, but like, you know, just the main thing, like people now more than ever know the importance of growing their food. And so, you know, green spaces and farm spaces, we a lot of times have access to those resources like seeds, like starts. And so we've created like a network connected into our CSA, like letting people know, you know, along as food, you know, we're giving out starts, we're giving out seeds. So just letting people know that, you know, that's something else that we're also offering right now. And, you know, Wanda has spoken to it too, but a lot of people are just in excess right now too, both in time, but also in things like starts, like if they can't get, you know, their field planted out, or they just have, you know, a lower production need right now. You know, not all farm spaces are doing what we're doing, meaning that like they're thinking about upping production, but like slowing down. And so really trying to just tap into all the spaces that have, you know, excess resources right now, and then creating a system to distribute that has been super important too. But also like just still being a knowledge base too. Like, you know, so many people have reached out just individually like, hey, you know, I need advice on starting a garden. Can you help me out, you know, with knowledge or with compost or with things like that? So that's been just the biggest thing, is just like showing up for people and like letting them know that, you know, whatever space you have, just reclaim it, use it, and, you know, let us know if you need things, because, you know, we're lucky enough to have resources in excess that we can distribute out to people. And so just having that as like in the thought process too, is like people want more than just food, but they want the empowerment to grow their own food and medicine. But I'm growing on that and like still trying to learn more. I know Soulfire Farm has a whole program right now with just implementing gardens for people right now. And so that's another thing right now, is just like going around to green spaces and just putting in gardens, like guerrilla gardening now more than ever. And just thinking that now is like a way to tap in with people.
And I'll say this, in your neighborhood, whatever city you live in, start with your neighborhood, and just look up community gardens, or look up something that has food in it, like food distribution or something like that. Then it could get you connected with who is doing the work that you may want to do. So you go to Google in your city, in your state, and find somebody that's doing what you need, what you want to do. Whoever that person asked that question, what can they do? That'd be a good start. If you're in Nashville, call Nella Frouse and Miss Pearl. Call me.
And call Miss Pearl. Oh, go ahead.
And this is heavy. Make it light. Laugh at stuff. Bring your best self to the table. I dressed up for this occasion. I put on a pretty yellow shirt with some buttons on it. Make yourself rise up. That's all I'm saying. And we rise up. That's what we'll do.
Amen, Miss Pearl. To the person wanting to know what to do, I would say plant a single seed. I've told people put a darn bean seed by a stop sign and water it every time you walk by it. I think it's really important when you think about growing a garden to think small and start small, because nature and that garden will grow. And you don't need to get overwhelmed by envisioning a farm. Even if you've got some oregano in a pot, you're doing something and getting started. And I promise that people will follow that lead. And then just really quickly, somebody asked a question about feeling overwhelmed in addressing food insecurity. When I first went to Hoover, the children were really hungry, and there was a lot of anxiety around hunger. When we started growing that garden, and in no means did we grow enough food that everybody was always taking, all the food they needed home, but they knew that there was food out there. They could take it home and share it with their families. And there was something about the ability to knowing it was out there and knowing how to grow it that helped alleviate at least the anxiety around food insecurity on the way to actually feeding bellies.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's good advice. Look local for how you can do that. Here on this call, I know myself, people reach out. I'm always willing to give any gardening knowledge I have and to share that. I also recognize on this call, there's a lot of urban farmers. So just know in your heart that there are many soldiers out on the ground who have been doing this, and we're here doing it, and we're here to lift you up in these times and to say, I really want everyone here on this call to understand that we're not dealing with food scarcity right now. Okay, we're dealing with distribution issues. And that, in fact, if anything, especially like Miss Wanda said about milk, we're dealing with trying to promote and bail out the milk industry that's in overproduction still, right? So we're not dealing with food scarcity, my people. So know that in your heart, we're not there yet. So I want you to walk away knowing that and that type of fear. And know that if you want a garden, you can succeed. And there are people out here who you can ask. You're not reinventing the wheel. It's not that scary. Things were meant to grow. We can help you figure out how to start and where to start there, and that we're happy to. And the last thing I would say on a general level is, I want people to wake up in the morning and wake up and think about what your plans are. Think about what you want to do for the next month or 2 months. You can't afford to be waking up every day and waiting to hear what the news said is happening or what they're telling you can or can't do. Obviously, we have to maintain our safety and our health, and we understand what's going on in that sense. But beyond that, cultivate a new skill. Reimagine how your life is in this time. Look at the earth, bluer skies than we've seen, gas companies shutting down right now. There's all sorts of things that I'm taking solace in, feeling Mother Earth, and just, how many birds I hear chirping right now, that's not normal, So take positivity in those things as well and create your own destiny in this time. Don't let people dictate it. And it's important for you to wake up knowing that every day that you're doing something, whatever it is.
Thank you all so much for coming today. I want to repeat a few pieces of information towards the end here. One is that we had a lot of questions come in that we wish we could have gotten to, and we'll keep doing things like this. So I recorded all the questions that came in the chat that we didn't get to, and we'll hopefully schedule more panel discussions and webinars and things like this in the weeks coming up and get to some of those questions. The others, just feel free to reach out to us. If you want to use us as a point person to reach out to some of the farmers and organizations you heard from on the call, feel free to do that. If you can't find them directly, if you can, please reach out to them directly. I'll give their information in a moment just so it's fresh. And also, if you were inspired today to maybe participate in something like this, you want to reach out to us and talk about maybe scheduling something where you can share about the work that you're doing in the organization or farm or place-based regenerative community project you're a part of, feel free to get in touch. So we're contact@permacultureaction.org. You can also just write to us on Facebook, Permaculture Action Network, or on Instagram. Just
Permaculture Action.
Oh, thank you. And just to repeat towards the end, there are ways you can donate directly to the various farmers and organizations that you've been hearing from today. If you want to support the Brooklyn Heights Community Garden, Miss Pearl's work, she's at Nella-Frierson-1 on Venmo. I put that in the chat, and we'll also throw it up in the comments on Facebook and maybe email folks that registered this information. To donate to and support Frontline Farming, it's paypal.me/Frontline Farming. So that's Fatuma's organization. You can find them on Instagram at Frontline Farming, as well as on Facebook. Their website is frontlinefarming.org. And to support Will's work with Black Earth Farms, you can donate to @Black Earth Farms on Venmo. And to support Wanda's work and the Hoover Hawks Victory Garden, that's wandalins@gmail.com on PayPal. So again, we'll post this information around. Please feel free to reach out to us so we can coordinate more like this.